Well, folks, if you think it's just in these isolated incidents that we see this attack on religious freedom, I want you to see that it's actually on our college campuses in a more intense way than you might even imagine, even on religious campuses. Let's go to Dr. Rick Scarborough, who's going to lead us into an understanding of what's happening on our college campuses. Rick?
Well, thank you, Tony. We have here in the studio Dr. Everett Piper. He has been the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University, a great Christian university in the northern part of Oklahoma, in Bartlesville, Oklahoma to be exact, since 2002. And I have been in a number of venues over the last 18 months where he was either the keynote speaker or one of the main speakers. And I'll tell you, Dr. Piper, I've become a fan. This man seated to my left is a modern-day Daniel. He doesn't flinch. He's a man of great courage. Dr. Piper, I know that your school initiated a lawsuit under your direction against Health and Human Services, Obamacare to be exact. And when you responded to the community's question, why is our university being involved in a lawsuit, you laid out 9 specific reasons why that lawsuit was important. And I might add, they chose Constitution Day in 2013 to lay out this case. I'm sure that was carefully chosen. But Dr. Piper, share with our listeners exactly why you're engaged in this lawsuit and specifically address some of these issues you raise that are often overlooked.
Right. Well, we have filed a lawsuit against Healthcare and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius, the Obama administration. And the reason for that lawsuit is because we disagree with the government's presupposition or presumption that it can impose its definition of religion upon us and require us to succumb to their definition. So in other words, what they're saying is that we're going to establish a new definition of what religious liberty is with regard to this requirement for abortifacient drugs. And we're going to tell these Christian universities that they have to include that abortifacient drug within their health care package. We're obviously saying, no, we're an evangelical Christian institution. We are grounded in a biblical worldview. All the employees that work for us are pro-life by definition. And like the Little Sisters of the Poor, which are co-litigants with us in this particular lawsuit, we have a religious conviction. We believe that we should preserve the dignity of the human being from conception to completion, so we don't want that product. Now, here's the interesting thing, Rick. This is a pro-woman position. We're saying the woman should be granted the dignity to decide what contraception she wants in her health care and what contraception she doesn't want in her health care. Who in the world thinks that the government should be telling a bunch of Catholic nuns at the Little Sisters of the Poor that they have to avail themselves of contraception?
Yeah, you can't make this kind of stuff up.
No. The assumption that these Catholic nuns want the drug, will use the drug, is absurd. Also, it diminishes their dignity and suggests they're not smart enough as women to decide what kind of products they want in their healthcare package. So this argument that we're presenting is actually an argument for the dignity of the woman, the right of the woman to make her own decisions in what healthcare products she wants or doesn't want.
Now, you also mentioned in the article I read that this whole idea of abortifacient and demanding that the culture distribute such to women is a further advancing of the objectification of women. Talk about that.
Right. Again, how insulting is it to suggest that women can't make their own choices when it comes to contraception? Catholics should be able to make decisions consistent with their Catholic vows and beliefs. Evangelical believers should be able to make the same. The argument to the contrary is really objectifying the woman and suggesting that she isn't intelligent enough. And really our culture today has created this argument that the human being is an object rather than an ontological reality, that the human being can be constructed in conjunction with desires and inclinations and fantasies and fabrications and make-believe rather than a man and a woman being an objective reality, a biological fact, a scientific empirical thing that exists and should be honored within that evidence. And we're the ones being accused of being anti-science?
Well, it makes the young lady on a college campus the plaything of the boy who is completely detached from any kind of ownership if there is a baby conceived. It seems to me that we have put women as objects of gratification to the male species in this case, or in the more radical cases where they're forced to participate in aborting the child once it's conceived.
And here's evidence to your point. Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. What's on the cover of a sports magazine in that particular issue?
Excellent.
A female body. So the point is, this is an object of recreation rather than a human being that has ontological dignity, not something to enjoy as an object of sport.
Now, in the event you lose the lawsuit, how far are you willing to go to sustain your convictions as an institution and as the leader of that institution?
I really think that's a critical question of our time. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, "Not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless." Wilberforce fought in the face of slavery for 40 years on the British Parliament until he finally prevailed. If Winston Churchill would have backed down because of fear of failure, we'd live in a very different world today. Wesley argued for justice, biblical justice, in the streets of London because of the degradation of the human being, the degradation of the woman, the degradation of the child, the dumbing down of the individual, but nothing but the sum total of inclinations, if you will, which we're suffering today. We will fight until the end.
Dr. Piper, we're about to run out of time here, but I want people to know how they can follow your ministry and receive, I know you do a weekly blog and other things. Tell the folks how they can stay in touch with you.
www.okwu.edu, and follow me on Twitter. It's Dr. Everett Piper, DREVERETTPIPER.
I want to encourage you to follow up on that because I do get his weekly emails and mail-outs, and this man is becoming a real champion of faith, one we need to pray for and support. Tony, back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you. Dr. Piper, thank you so much. You guys stand by. We're going to have some questions for you in just a moment. And again, let me remind you to send your questions. This is interactive. We want to hear from you. You can email us your questions at frc.org, or you can tweet them at FRCDC.